From the Smith Center in Chapel Hill, this is TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and alongside me, as he always is, THI publisher Andrew Jones. And Andrew, a little over an hour ago, we saw Carolina suffer its worst home loss under Roy Williams in his 17 seasons here, 74-49 to Ohio State. And AJ, I think the biggest takeaway from tonight's game and how Carolina played is just from start to finish, absolutely nothing went right for this team, and it definitely reflected on the scoreboard.
If you're a stat guy, read the box score.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch the game, just read the box score and it tells
score.
us they all. They got clobbered on the glass, 48-32. 17 for 62 from the field, fewest number of field goals ever in this building, which opened 34 years ago, okay? 35 years ago. They were awful in every sense. They had some good stretches defensively, and they stayed in the game, and you kind of sense that, man, you and I were even mentioned, well, Ohio State isn't putting this team away, and they should. After Armando Bacot went down, not even 8 minutes into the game, out for the game. He's going to be out for a while. We'll hit on that in a second. And you kind of thought, okay, here's Ohio State's moment to sort of
Pull away,
just blow this team out now. And Carolina hung around. They showed some fight. I thought they got better defensively after Armando went out. It's not because Armando was out. They just picked it up. And some guys hit a few shots. Cole actually hit 2 threes in a row to cut a 39-30 game to 39-36 with 15:57 left. And after that, that was like the last bit of whatever Carolina had tonight that was okay. That was the last bit of it. They were done. The final 15:57 in the game, Ohio State 35, Carolina 13. They annihilated them.
Yeah.
And when you're watching the game, and I chuckle because we're looking down. I'm trying to find things, we're writing during the game.
Yeah, at that point.
I'm putting together the 5 takeaways, and I'm thinking about what my column's going to be. And I said, there's nothing there.
Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah.
They're in the uniforms, and there's just nothing there. Cole doing what he can do. He was sick tonight, but no excuse. He's a big-time player. He's got to be a big-time player. He tried to be a big-time player, but there's only so much you can do when you can't score. When your half-court offense stagnates, they play in sand too often. Yeah. They don't move. Even running stuff through the post, Garrison Brooks is a good enough post player. You should be able to effectively run an offense through the post, and he's catching it. He's getting entry passes 5 and 6 feet outside the lane. It's like they all came together for the first time in their lives at the 15:57 mark and tried to play a basketball game against a really good, cohesive, veteran, well-coached team. And the result was the worst loss in this building under Roy Williams, the second worst loss ever in this building. You could go on, and it was very ugly. And this was a 25-point game, and that's kind of the way you look at it. You look at the box score, that's the snapshot of what we saw in person here tonight.
And AJ, we were sitting up right up there, and I remember halfway through the second half, you kind of tapped on me. You were like, look at Roy Williams right now. And he's kind of turned around to his assistants, and he's having these conversations with these assistants like you mentioned that you'd never really seen him have. And then we go to the post-game press conference, and Roy says, I've got no answers. And even you mentioned that up there.
When he was doing that.
Yep. You mentioned up there.
I don't know how many games I've covered of Carolina's under Roy Williams. I'm guessing around 400. That's just during the Roy Williams era. I don't recall seeing him talk to his assistant coaches a whole lot during the game. Sometimes timeout, talk with them for a second, and then talk to the team. He was talking to them during the game. The play's going behind his back, and he's talking to, almost pleading. If anybody remembers Gary Williams in Maryland, the way he used to plead, it was similar to that, except he wasn't yelling at some walk-on on the bench. Roy was trying to, he was looking for answers. And he
didn't have any.
He had an exchange with Steve Robinson, and this is not a bad exchange. It's not yelling or like that. It's like guys, help me out here.
What do we do? Yeah.
What can I do? And it was while the game was going on, and I said to you, he's got no answers.
Exactly.
And then at another point, a little bit later, Roy took out the starters and put in 5 reserves, which included Shea Rush. And that lineup ended up with Walker Miller on the floor, KJ Smith was on the floor, Justin Pierce and Christian Keeling. And they came out, and he put the starters back on, and about a minute later, he turned to those kids and started talking to them because he didn't like what they were doing either. And I said to you, there were the 4 that we saw in uniform right there, because I guess Huffman wasn't on that part of the bench. Because the rest of the guys had their warm-ups on. It was 3 legacies and a grad transfer from Charleston Southern. And I said again, he's got no answers. And that's what Roy said. The bottom line is, even with Armando Bacot, this team has very little room for error because you've got two burger boys, Baycott and Cole Anthony, and they're freshmen. And then you've got other parts, and you got to have these other guys flare up. And we've seen a few flare-ups, but not enough. And tonight we didn't see anything from anybody else.
Yeah.
Leaky Black's game is what it is right now. He's not the player yet that a lot of people anticipate he will become. Justin Pierce can give you some solid minutes, but he's not a guy that you're going to win a whole lot with if he's playing 35 minutes a game at this point in time. Brandon Robinson's a pretty nice shooter, but these are good, solid complementary parts, but they're not third options. And when Armando went down, they become second options, and they're not really options. And everything just didn't go well. And then the solid defense they were playing just escaped them. I think their minds were a big obstacle.
They were rattled, yeah.
Well, I just think that the confidence. Andrew Platek hasn't played with the same confidence he did 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Christian Keeling played 3 minutes in the first half tonight. He started the first few games, so there's confidence issues there. They got to go to UVA this weekend. If they're not scoring against Ohio State, and this is 8 games now where they have not hit the 80-point mark, and it's going to be 9 Sunday, at least when you look ahead to Sunday, and I'm not doing a big Sunday preview, the UVA's offense is terrible too, so who knows what will happen that day.
30 game.
But if Armando's out for a while, and that's what we're hearing, this team is going to have a lot of trouble beating solid teams unless somebody else goes off along with Cole.
Yeah, and speaking of Baycott, obviously Baycott went down in the first half and looked like a pretty bad injury. I mean, I know from where we were sitting, and I think most of the people in the media, it originally looked like he went for his knee.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be a left ankle sprain, according to Roy Williams. Roy said in his presser after that he expects, Armando to be out for a long time, most likely. And
I think your quote was, to be specific, for a while.
For a while, yeah. So that's not a good sign for Carolina going forward. But, AJ, as soon as Carolina lost Baycott, I think I tweeted it during the game, but I think we really saw how important he was to this team. It didn't even have to be in there giving him 20 and 10 a night, but just having his presence in there, having his body, having a guy as talented as him in there. When you take that away from Carolina's lineup, when you look at kind of like you were mentioning, all those complementary kind of role players they have don't have a lot of guys that can create their own shots. They don't have a lot of superstars on this team. You take a guy like that out who's going to be playing in the NBA, maybe even next year, who knows? And this team just looked lost, and I think that had a lot to do with Carolina just not having any answers.
He's their second best player.
Yeah, of course.
They got 8 guys in rotation. Okay, they've got 6 role players, and 2 guys are going to play in the NBA.
Yeah,
and they're both freshmen. And at least if you look at the parts, and we've said this before in the videos, they have the parts on the spots on the floor that you want. So you've got your point guard who can score and dish and Cole, dish when he needs to. And you've got a post guy who is a true post guy in Armando. And then everything else can kind of work itself around that. You've got 2 parts that you need to have to be an effective basketball team. When you lose that, I think that they were hurt on the defensive end because the shot block really wasn't there, the threat of it. But they weren't defending before he went down. Ohio State was getting everything it wanted there for a while. They actually defended a little bit better afterwards. I think the sense of urgency was there. I think the intensity picked up. But they're hurt on the offensive end, not just in being able to run this stuff and run stuff through the post, but the putbacks. Cole gets that stuff up off the glass. He knows Armando's there to clean it up, but he's really solid at doing that. And also, when the box out, if you got Garrison out there, he's being boxed out, Armando's being boxed out. Sometimes other guys who come in there with the putback. Now, it's just Garrison, maybe Justin Pierce. It just changes what this team can do. And the bottom line is you've got 8 parts. Look on the table. You've got 8 parts. 2 of them are really shiny objects that really stand out. The other ones are 6 parts that they complement those 2. If you pull that one out, it changes what you're looking at. And it changes this basketball team tremendously. And like I said a second ago, they got to go to UVA with a stagnant half-court offense, a so-so break. Their secondary break is non-existent. Roy talked about that on Tuesday. They scored 49 points here tonight. They're averaging about 72, 73 points a game right now, and that includes games against Elon and UNCW and Gardner-Webb. We said earlier in the year, okay, it's just November, it's November 20th. This is December 4th against a Power 5 team in their home building. You lose Armando for a while, I think that this team is going to have some issues. He has a huge coaching job in front of him to try to get this team to score the ball. It's not a term I really like a whole lot, but I think right now it's appropriate. They have to find a way to score the ball, because if you don't score, you can't win.
Yeah, you can't win. And AJ, like you mentioned, me and AJ will be up in Charlottesville on Sunday for that game. It's a 4 p.m. tip-off. And who knows what the score of that game might be. I mean, UVA got blown out by Purdue tonight. How many points did they score? I can't even remember. It was no more
What
than
was
30.
the football score? Like 38-31
Yeah,
Carolina and UVA
that might be
football?
the same score in basketball. So obviously
Sam Howell and Bryce Perkins play basketball too?
Yeah, that would make it a lot more interesting, that's for sure. But for THIillustrated.com, I'm staff writer Jacob Turner. He's THI publisher Andrew Jones. And Carolina, 74-49 lost to Ohio State tonight. AJ, a lot to dissect. We'll have that all on THI, THIillustrated.com. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.